People Like You is the name of the podcast, y'all. We're going to bring it to you with some of the hottest beats you never heard and some of the hardest conversation you ever going to hear. People Like You is the name of the podcast, y'all. People Like You. We're talking about Black History Month, and I'm back with Chip. Chip's got some things to say. I think y'all need to hear about this whole Black History Month thing, and I got some stuff I want to add. So, without further ado, we'll just get right into it. I wanted to talk a little bit about Black History Black History Month because I think it is becoming obsolete in a way because we're recycling the same old stuff year after year, and it's been broken down to straight hero worship. We get a healthy dose of Martin Luther King.
Oh, yeah.
We get a little Malcolm X. We get some Rosa Parks, some Shirley Chisholm, some Madam C.J. Walker, all these greats from history and all these things that they've accomplished. But we're just running over it again and again. I heard you say the last time you learned something on Black History Month.
Grade school. So I think we need to revitalize this holiday month, this holiday season, and make it into something a little bit different. It's funny you say recycle because, and we talked about this before, if you did a Black History project in 4th grade, you could very well reuse that same one in 5th grade because chances are you're going to get the same person to cover. It's going to be the same guidelines, and it's nothing new. Using it in 4th grade, using it in 5th grade, using it in 6th grade. Use that thing until it wears out.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, recycle.
Yeah, it's all being recycled year after year. I was scrolling through Facebook. I've been scrolling through Facebook this month, trying to pick out the Black History posts.
What'd you see?
Madam C.J. Walker in her brand new Ford. Betty Boop. The Betty Boop story. You know, Betty Boop was actually a sister.
No, I didn't know that.
Yes, Betty Boop was actually a sister, and right down to the hair on the Betty Boop cartoon was stolen from a sister who used to perform. And try as she might, she was never able to win the rights for that character back from white folks.
It's a real touchy subject for me because, I know it's just 1 month where we're supposed to, I guess that month in particular, we're supposed to say, hey, let's acknowledge, what's going on in the Black community, what's happened in the Black community. But like you say, it's recycled and it's not really doing that, I don't think.
It started as Negro History Week in 1926. Carter G. Woodson, he was a renowned scholar, historian, Harvard trained. It didn't become Black History Month until 1970. Some students and faculty at Kent State decided that they wanted it to be an entire month, and they opened a cultural center in celebration of Black History Month. But now Black History Month is stale. It's a public service announcement. And this is Black History Month. Remember Black people.
It's funny you say it went from 2 weeks to a month, and now it's stopped there. That was 1970. I would like to see it go further. Maybe be Black history all the time. Maybe just get rid of the Black history and incorporate it into the history that is taught, at your elementary, middle schools, your high schools, and your colleges. Because then if we intertwine it and make it, because it is a part of the fabric of our lives here in America.
Oh, yeah.
It should be.
Oh, yeah. That's some of the critics. Some of the critics had pointed that out, that, number one, it might be somewhat unfair, if not racist, to dedicate an entire month to the history of one group of people and set it aside. I think it should be taught. In a manner of speaking, it is taught, but not to the extent that it should be. And it's not taught the way it should be. I think you and I both know when we went to school, our history started with slavery.
Oh, yeah. And we got off the boat.
Yeah, and it didn't improve until the 60s. And there was nothing from slavery until the civil rights movement for anybody to be proud of. And that's what Black History Week and then month was supposed to address, the fact they don't even teach our history properly. But I think now they're doing a little bit better job. But I didn't learn all the most amazing things I learned about Black history until college. Yeah,
I agree. I had to seek it out.
Yeah, we had Black History Month my whole life, but it was all about Martin Luther King. And now I think that we need to, like I said, revitalize this so that black people.
No, tell me.
So that black people. Okay.
Tell me, how would you change Black History Month if you were the official, the aficionado? Okay, this is what Black History Month is going to be in America moving forward. Go. What would it be?
Less hero worship. Less idolizing and canonizing and lionizing individuals and their accomplishments, and take a better look at the real grit of history, the true stories, the true and untold stories of the struggle, so that we can see how much things probably have not changed as well as how much they have changed.
Yo, I like that, because if you think about the American history, quote unquote, American history. They talk about the Boston Tea Party. What was that?
That was a riot.
That was a riot. That was
riot.
That was the struggle. That was a part of the struggle that people had to go through to make this country what it is today. There were struggles in that. And so, like you said earlier, right now Black history is all about like hero worship. It doesn't talk about the struggle at all.
No, it doesn't talk about the struggle. It talks about all these great accomplishments and all these things the black folks have done. My thing is this. We have come a long way, but we had to struggle real hard to get there. And I think we need to talk about the struggle as opposed to just the accomplishments and this place where we have arrived, because we are still struggling.
JR just came home from school the other day, and he has a Black History assignment project. And JR, for those of you who don't know, is all of 4 years old. He's going to he's in pre-K, not even kindergarten, pre-K, and he's got a Black History project to do. I'm going to have to help him with it. And guess who he got? Just guess.
Martin Luther King.
Ding, 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 ding. Martin Luther King. And I joked to some of my friends about it. I said, I wish we could have picked who he was going to do his Black History project on, because I would have picked someone who was enslaved. And part of his project would have been him showing up to school on presentation day dressed like a slave, shackled at the feet, some old jeans that had been worn out and raggedy and just holes at the bottom, at the top, and I would have sent him to school like that, because again, that's a part of Black history, not just, oh yeah, you got Dr. Martin Luther King, you got Malcolm X,
Right.
That's the struggle.
I'm a soldier, for example. I studied the history of African American soldiers as a part of my education, as part of my honors thesis. I wrote a piece about it, and I was going back over some of that research and looking into some different things, and it's easy to find out about the 16 Congressional Medal of Honor winners that were black who served in the Civil War. But it's not so easy to find out about the fact that there were riots in New York City in 1863 based on a draft that Congress instituted to get people to fight in the Civil War. Caucasians said, you know what? I'm not fighting in no war for the nigger. And killed 120-something black people in New York, downtown New York, ran them out of their homes, burned down their businesses because they refused to be drafted into a war for the nigger.
See, that's the part of Black history you will never hear anything about. That's been swept under a rug, that is under a rug.
And we're talking about 120-something souls that were murdered that we don't even know about They were buried in mass graves, and the black population never returned to downtown New York.
Right.
You go down there right now, it's probably 2 Negroes. So
you know what you will see? Let me tell you what you will see. I'm watching a basketball game the other day on NBA League Pass, and during the halftime shows, after commercials run, you can see what's going on in arena. So for Black History Month, they decide to get 3 black guys and 3 black women dressed in African tribal clothing, beating drums, and singing some song that is in some African language. So it kind of made me confused because, and I think we all need to ask ourselves this question, is Black History Month about all of black history, like the history of the black race or the black, skin? Because if it is, then I can see incorporating Africa and African, tribal, rituals and culture and stuff like that. Or is Black History Month about African American history in this country? So that's one question we have to ask ourselves. And then if it is about the previous one, African as black skin, then okay, I can see that. But if we're, it seems like to me, mass media, it seems like Black History Month is about African American history. So when I'm watching this basketball game and I'm seeing these people beat a drum wearing, clothes I've never even seen before, in America, I've never seen these clothes before. Mm-hmm. I'm asking myself, what the heck's going on? What do you think about that?
Well, I think it was meant to be about African American history.
African American.
Yeah, I think it was meant to be about African American history because there's only Negroes in America. Negro is an American outgrowth. Negro is an American invention. So is black. So is black. Prior to the 16th century, there was no race. Race was invented here in America. Therefore, Black History Month is about a race, which doesn't exist, but that's another podcast. Black History Month is about a race which was invented in America, and it's about the history of that race. So I think it's an American thing. Even though Black History Month is now celebrated in Ireland and in the UK and in one other place, I can't recall, it's about African American history here. It should be about the entire diaspora. It should be about black history in general. It should be about the thousands of years that Arabs and Egyptians and Africans had white folks under their thumb.
Yeah, history should be history. Point blank period.
Exactly.
It should only be about periods, in my opinion. It shouldn't be black history, Latino history, European history. It should just be about periods. And I can see maybe incorporating, region. Yeah. We're talking about this region during this period. But to give black people, African Americans, whoever, to give them 1 month in February,
the shortest month
to talk about the things that I don't know
we should be talking about anyway. We don't get to choose who we worship as a community. All that's chosen for us, from the white Jesus to LeBron James.
White Jesus.
We don't get to choose who we worship. I'll go back to Tupac, right? It's Black History Month. Tupac is Black history.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go back to Tupac. Tupac was an artist, right? All day. Probably one of the best to ever do it. I don't deny none of that. But why is he a hero? Because we don't get to choose our heroes. Because Tupac sang about killing people. He sang about murder and drugs and all that kind of stuff. Now,
but he was also conscious, though.
He was very conscious. He was very conscious. He was lit. Right. But some of his music was an ad campaign for jail.
Right.
And you can't deny that. Some of his music was an ad campaign for jail and prison.
Yeah.
So what made him a hero in the black community? The fact that he was conscious or the fact that he was real? That's what they told me in college. In a college class, African American Studies, I asked the same question. What did Tupac do that makes him a hero? Mm-hmm. And this chick was like, do you understand that he was real? So that's what he was. Right. But what did he do? One, was he real? He went to performing arts high school. So was he all thug? I'm sure he had some dance training. You know what I mean?
I feel that.
So don't come to me with he was real, because Martin Luther King was real. Malcolm X was real. I am real. You are real. We're all real people.
Right.
We do real things. But don't tell me that this man, who was one of the leading proponents of this ad campaign for jail that is hip hop music nowadays, and then too, is supposed to be my hero.
Right.
He could rap his ass off. He was conscious. I've heard him say some very conscious things, but he died broke. He was murdered. His mama's broke. You know, so how is it that he's accomplished so much that he's supposed to be a hero? That's because we don't choose who we worship anymore. We don't choose who our heroes are. If we chose our own heroes, we might do a little bit better.
Yo, I always ask people that too, like when they say, oh yeah, I went to church. I say, oh, what church you go to? Oh, okay, yeah. Is that a Christian church? Oh yeah, it's a Christian church. Oh, you're Christian? Yeah, I'm Christian. Why are you Christian? Is it because your mom was Christian and her mama was Christian and her mom was Christian? Or are you Christian because you went out there and sought the answers for yourself, and after you examined, you know, or explored a couple of different things, you say, oh yeah, I identify with this. No, it's never that. It's only that because that's where they were raised.
That's where they were raised.
How they were raised.
That's how they were raised.
So again, Black History Month, to bring it back to Black History Month, February 1st. They start rolling out the assignments and the overviews and the commercials and stuff like that. And in those commercials, in those assignments, you know, in those lectures, that's when they tell you again who to worship and who we're gonna focus on. Mm-hmm. You know, as compared to being an all-year thing where Black history is just something we incorporate into who we are. And that's what I challenge everyone to do. You know, if you don't get anything else from me in this podcast, I would just challenge you to examine different things.
I would say definitely delve into the history of the struggle from more than the perspective of just eyes on the prize and those kinds of documentaries and books and literature and articles that say, yes, Martin Luther King and Shirley Chisholm. I can run off about 10 Black History Month names right now that if you go out and you check Facebook, they're all out there. Mm-hmm. They're all out there. But what I want people to understand is that...
Get it out.
What I want people to understand is that you cannot separate the accomplishments from the struggle. You cannot separate the history of the terrific and all that from the history of the terrifying and all that. You have to bring those two into the fold together, because then you just have, pardon my French, white folks saying, but you guys had Obama and yada, yada, yada. But how many people were lynched during the Obama era? After the Civil War, for example, it's Black History Month, it's Black History. After the Civil War, for example, things actually got worse for Black people. After the Civil War, we entered a period called the nadir of American history, where the Black Codes were enacted, which were the precursors to the Jim Crow laws, which led up to Plessy versus Ferguson, which set separate but equal as the standard of the nation for over 50 years. Things got worse for Black people.
Even here in Georgia, when the Union came in and regulated the Confederate soldiers here in the state, when they left, they were giving land to African American people. Mm-hmm. Not much land, just some land. Well, after the war was over and stuff, they decided, well, this wasn't a good look, so to say. And they took that land back.
Took it back.
So you doggone right. You doggone right. The struggle's real. So this is what I want to see. Let me tell you what I want to see. I want to see during Black History Month, if we're going to still stay at a month, and we're going to, keep this little thing going, 28 days. Yeah. Next year, I want to see a Rodney King commercial, on TV.
Yeah. I want to see some real stuff. I don't want to see this whole, I have a dream speech, in a commercial with Coca-Cola. I want to see Rodney King footage of him getting beat. I want to see footage of those officers getting off, because to me, that is the part of Black history that I think is going to spark more change, because the human race is all about change and progression and being progressive, correct?
Correct.
So I think Black History Month, if it's going to be a month, should be a month where we reflect on the things that should really incite that change in us. So instead of talk about heroes, talk about my guy Rodney King. Show that video. Yeah. Show the cops getting off, because that was like the first time in history, in like media, where it was highlighted that somebody Black was being done wrong, and that his oppressors were getting off scot-free.
Scot-free, and the nation went up in flames.
Oh, they burnt L.A. They burnt L.A. up.
They burnt L.A. They burnt Florida. They burnt.
But talk to a fifth grader, because you remember I said earlier, I haven't really learned anything in Black History Month since elementary school. So after this month is over, talk to your kids. Talk to the youth and say, what did you learn during Black History Month? All they're going to learn is about what you said. They're going to learn about the heroes, but no one is going to learn about the struggle. Because I guarantee you this, even with my kids, when I present a problem to them and we start talking about those kind of things, I can see in their eyes that they're growing. They're starting to understand stuff. So if you show a young child that, hey, this is Black History Month, this is the history of Black people, Rodney King, for example, Emmett Till, for example, it's going to change the way they think, and maybe they can be the next generation who will, get that change going.
It's got to be done. It's got to be done, because I think I said this last time we talked about this. If one of the founding fathers of this nation were to come back right now, his first question would probably be, well, y'all ain't written no more new shit? You still going on the shit that we wrote in the 1600s, in the 1700s? You need to do some new stuff. Right. And I think African Americans, as far as Black History Month and the history of the struggle and the way we teach it to each other and ourselves and the way it's taught to us, needs to be revamped, reconsidered, because it's stale.
I almost feel like Black History Month at first had to be us walking on eggshells. Like, we're going to give y'all, it's Black History Month. Okay, nobody gave us, rather, it's Black History Month. Let's talk about these things and not upset anyone.
Exactly.
But now that we've come so far, it ain't the 60s no more. It's not 1928. Now it's 2019. Now we can incite people. We can anger people. We can do things that make people mad. Let's revamp Black History Month to really highlight what's going on.
And I think you hit a key phrase there, make people mad. I think people need to be mad about some of these things. And I think they would be if they realized that, going back to the African American soldier, we helped this nation win its independence.
True that.
And by the time World War II hit, they still were reluctant to even use us in combat. They were lynching us, maiming us, fighting over scraps of the body of lynched and burned Black men because they didn't want us to fight in World War II. What about those facts?
Some of the greatest fighters I know were Black.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah. Mike Tyson, Sonny Liston, all these great Black fighters. But
that's a joke. I'm messing around.
Yeah, but I'm serious. But it's serious, though. Yeah, it's serious.
True that.
Why not teach people stuff that's going to make them mad?
Right.
Instead of be like,
Kumbaya.
Exactly. Why not teach people stuff that's going to make them mad? Because when I started learning the truth about Black history and the diaspora and everything that people have gone through just because of this thing we call Black, I got mad. And it motivated me to do better.
Exactly. When it comes to emotions, love will make you do stuff that's out of your realm, and so will anger. When you're happy, more or less, you're content. When you're sad, if you're really sad, you ain't doing shit. Right. But when you're mad or you're in love, hopefully is both madly in love with Black history, or the Black race, that's when you're going to see the most change and get the most out of your actions, or just have actions in general.
I think is Black History Month about loving ourselves. I think that's one of the purposes, because Carter G. Woodson said as he was starting this thing is that if you take a people's history and culture and heritage away from them, you relegate them to nobody and nothingness. And there's a lot of self-hate involved in that.
That's why I understand. You want to highlight, the typical people, the Malcolm X's and stuff like that. You want to highlight those, that's fine. There's got to be like 2 days out the month. The other 26 days, you got to start talking about anybody else. Bring anybody into this conversation. Yeah. Of course, Barack Obama. Of course, Michelle. Of course, Oprah. Of course. But I also feel like you need to talk about Kareem Hunt. And Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick took a knee. He was at. And if you ask any Black kid right now what they want to be, it's going to be a football player or a basketball player or a rapper. Those are going to be your 3 top answers. So here you got Colin Kaepernick, who's achieved the highest level of achievement in the Black community, so to say, wink, wink. And he decides to take a knee for his people because he doesn't feel like we are being done justly when it comes to, interactions with police and just in general. So he takes a knee during the national anthem. Hasn't worked since.
That's Black history.
That's a part of Black history because he's a good quarterback. He's better than probably 5 or 6 starting quarterbacks right now. So for him not to even get a job as a backup is a smack in the face. But then you take somebody like Kareem Hunt, another Black guy. I'm not knocking on him, but he pushed and kicked a Caucasian girl, got let go from the team. This was last season. And before the next season even starts, he's got a job with the Cleveland Browns. Okay, so what you're saying to us is it's okay to beat a chick, but it's not okay to stand up for what you believe in the Black community. If you do that, you're gone. We don't want you no more.
Not. That is some potent, pointed, infuriating fucking Black history right there.
That's Black history.
That's Black history right there, but no child will ever learn about Colin Kaepernick unless we teach him.
Yeah.
Because his whole struggle will be boiled down to the fact that he was given a deal by Nike and Time Magazine made him Man of the Year. Why he took that knee, what the battle turned into, how they tried to spin it, will never even be a part of the history.
No.
Okay?
Washed out.
Washed completely out. Under the rug. You have to pump sunshine to it if you're ever going to see it. Now, I'm looking at it. I look at it like the history thing with the Revolutionary War. Black folks served in the Revolutionary War too. On both sides. As a matter of fact.
Oh, yeah.
On both sides. As a matter of fact, George Washington started arming Black people because they was about to lose. Had it not been for Black people in more than one way, not just on the battlefield, but one of them, James Armistead, served as a spy who took critical information from the British, turned it over to the United States, and we won that war based on something that an African American did. We don't even know who this brother is.
Nope.
We don't even know who this brother is. And then after the war, they sent him right back to slavery like, thanks, James. You a slave again now. You saved the United States, but you a slave again now.
Exactly.
If we don't understand the depths of our struggle as a people, if we don't understand the true stories of the struggle, then we're never really going to understand why it is that we are still oppressed.
Black history.
Black history. Black history. We don't study it properly now, so we won't study it properly in the future because we don't get to choose our heroes. They do. Black History Month, I think, is more of a blindfold right now than anything else, and we need to rip that. We need to rip that off, and we need to rip it off like the duct tape off the mouth in the movies. Rip it off like the Band-Aid off the arm. Rip them sensitive hairs right off with it, and expose that festering sore that is the struggle that is ongoing.
Hey, you still gonna do what we said we're gonna do?
What's that?
Next month we're gonna put hashtag Black History Month. In June, if we see something tight, or we're gonna put hashtag Black History Month.
Why not?
Because Black History Month, to me, is every month. It ain't just February. December was Black History Month. Because I'm out there spitting game to youngsters like, yo, you ain't notice what's going on right here? That's part of what we got going on. That's history.
Yeah. And that's the most important thing, because if you don't know what it is that you're so pissed off about, then you just angry black man. If you don't know why you're so frustrated, then you can't even really get a hold on your frustration. You can't be like, okay, I understand that this is an outgrowth of history and the socio-economic culture of this country. If you don't know that, then you sitting up pissed off at McDonald's wondering why the white man just grabbed the black chick by the throat and then ordered his food and left.
I saw that video.
Saw that video?
He wouldn't have grabbed me.
He wouldn't have grabbed nobody if I was there. I would have been whooping his ass. But that's not the world that we live in. That's not the world that we live in. We live in a world of white privilege, and that's also black history too.
Yep.
We need to discuss all these things. We need to bring some of this stuff to light. All right, Chip, I want to thank you for coming out once again, man.
Thank you for having me. I love being here.
Because we have to do this. We have to get this information out here. Because they don't know. And when I say they, I mean we. And that's hard to look at every day, man. Just watching people be blind.
Yeah, that's hard to look at.
In the world of the blind, it's the sighted man that's crazy. And I'll leave it at that. I'm Timothy Hampton. Chip, we out of here.
We out.
People like you, y'all. We have music from Fleslet, Q Tracks. We have music from Freak Van Workham and Foreign Extra. If you feel like your beat is hard enough for the podcast, send it to peoplelikeyu@gmail.com. Beats in the subject line. That's the number 2, peoplelikeyu@gmail.com. Put beats in the subject line. We'll take a listen. We'll see what you got.